Hello everyone, happy 2021. Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Footy featuring Toronto High Performance Football Club. I'm your host Shaheen, and today's podcast is going to be dedicated to our OPDL program within Toronto High Performance Football Club. Today we have Edin, who's the High Performance Manager at the club. We have Joe Kelly, who's one of the OPDL Assistant Coaches. And we also have Allard Vector and Jason Phillips, who are both parents and managers of our 05 and 07 boys teams within OPDL. Sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's my pleasure to have you guys. Thank you for your time to be here, and thanks for accepting the invitation. To get us started, I would like Edin, who's the High Performance Manager of THPFC, to get us started and kind of explain to us what the OPDL program is, what OPDL stands for those people that might not know what it is, and just walk us through the structure of the program briefly, and then we'll get everybody else going.
Thanks, Shaheen, for having us here, and thanks to these gentlemen for joining us today and finding the time. I guess it's not that hard these days. I will try to be as quick as possible. I think it would be important just to say that High Park became OPDL license holder in the late 2017, and then the first season was season 2018, right? For the first two teams we had in the program were 2005 boys and the girls. The first season for the club was a great experience for the players, for the coaches, for everyone around the program, and it was a great opportunity for us to feel and to see, expectations of the high performance program and to give us a better picture how hard we need to work to build the program and to make sure that we have the best possible environment for the developments of our most competitive players, right? So I guess some people might not know, but every license holder has to meet a lot of requirements to join the OPDL, and it's not an easy task. We are constantly being assessed by Ontario Soccer. I'll give you an example, match day assessment, for example, where they're coming and the coaches are being evaluated to see are they delivering long-term players development plan, are they using a proper methods when interacting with the players, and if they have what it takes to coach in that environment, which is good. I really like it. It pushes the club and the coaches to work better. It's not just you sign up for OPDL and you have it in the club. It's not how it works. It's way more than that. So I've been the part of the program from the day one in a different roles, and I'm very proud to see what the program looks like right now. So right now, 4 years later, we have 6 OPDL teams: 2005 boys, 06 girls. We have 2007 boys and the girls, and now we have the new teams, the newest ones, 2008 boys and the girls, who unfortunately did not have the chance, same as 07 boys and the girls, to experience the regular OPDL season, but I'm hoping that they will this year, right? It's
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Good thing is that the season starts in May, so we have a good chance of getting back to normal by then. I hope. One more important thing that I would like to mention about the program again is that we have, for the past 2 years, over 90% retention rate of the players, which means we are providing some value to the players and parents. They recognize that the program has a quality, and they are not leaving the program. Like the only few player left since we are running this. So that's something big for us. In terms of the structure, it's pretty simple. Every single team has a head coach, assistant coach, and then we have a goalkeeper coach who's running the program for the OPDL goalkeepers. For the goalkeepers is very good because OPDL goalkeepers get the chance to train with the goalkeeper coach 3 to 5 times a week, which is very rare in the clubs around us. And all these coaches have to be qualified with the National B or a youth license or a UEFA B at least, right? We have some providers and people who are helping us in supporting the program from outside of the club. And for example, 180-degree Performance is running our strength and conditioning, and they are amazing. They're doing a great job with our athletes. We're also using Huddle as a video game analysis software. Every player has access to it, and it's very powerful tool for the coaches and for the players. Some of the big clubs in the English Premier League are using the same software, so it's very good. We recently signed a contract with Live Active Sports Medicine, who's going to provide their services to our players and help us prevent and treat injuries, something that we were missing a little bit in the past. They will be also present on our sessions as well. Sports psychology and all these things, trying to add something to the program every single year and to make it more and more quality. And I guess the one that me and Shaheen and Joe really like is the new venue that we have and the new field that we're going to use for an OPDL to train the Michael Power. Right now we have a beautiful field, proper sized field for our athletes. So I think that's a great addition, and we are really thankful to the club for supporting the program and to making it work for everyone.
That's good, Edin. Thank you so much. And honestly, I'll say this, and I'm not being biased here. I don't think I am, but I think you've done a great job. I think you personally have high standards, and you make sure you transfer that to the coaching staff in the OPDL program, to the players, to the parents. So thank you for the good job that you've done. I want to kind of change the perspective and go over to the parents and the managers, to Allard and Jason. You guys are parents. Your sons are on the team, on the 05 and 07 teams respectively. Yep. You guys are obviously volunteering your time to be the manager of the teams, which we really appreciate. So thank you for that. Allard, I'll start with you. Can I just ask you to maybe tell us about your son's journey before he joined the OPDL program? How did he start? And then how did he build himself up and eventually join the OPDL program?
Sam played a little bit of hockey, played a little bit of lacrosse, he played a little bit of soccer, he played a few sports when he was really young. But I'm a bit of a soccer nut, so there's a lot of soccer on the TV. And back when I used to play a little bit more, there was some FIFA on the TV and stuff that he would see. So he seemed to get excited by soccer, and he seemed to enjoy it and got really engaged with it. So he started playing at rep level. We weren't at Toronto High Park. We live in the we're in the east end of the city. So we were at another club, and he was doing some academy. He was at an academy as well. For a period there, he was doing an academy and club soccer as well. So it was a lot. But he was really enjoying it. He was very engaged, and as we went through, I always told him we'd take him to whatever level he wanted to take it to. So at one point he got accepted into another academy, and I remember he got very upset when I told him that he got accepted, because he didn't want to leave his teammates that he was with on his team. He was very close with his teammates. So he didn't end up going to that academy, and he stuck with his team. And then a couple of years later, he got invited to the district program that they put together within the Toronto area. And we said he wanted to do that. So he did that. And through there, we were starting to prepare to go to try out at a couple of OPDL clubs. I wasn't aware at that time that High Park was going to be getting a club. So we tried out at a couple of clubs, including High Park, when we found out that they were putting because you guys hadn't established it. This was your first season. So the tryouts were quite often on the same evening. So we kind of jumped around between them. And then one night I said, look, you got to make a decision. Tonight you could try out, because there's multiple tryouts. I said, you're going to have to try out either at High Park or at this other one. And I'm glad he chose High Park. He seemed to be more engaged with the boys within that group already. And I liked what I saw in the field. So Sam joined and was offered a position, and been there shuttling along the Gardner ever since.
Thank you for that background. We'll get back to Sam. Jason, what about Austin? Can you give us a little bit about his background? And if I'm not wrong, you guys have been part of the club for a while now. So
yeah, I think Austin's been with High Park since Timbits, and so whatever that was, I guess 4 or 5 years old, and has always been with High Park, and with the 07 age group. For the younger ages, we always had sort of 5 teams. There was lots of teams, and Austin was by no means a star from the beginning. I think he was playing on the 3rd or 4th team for a bit, but sort of getting involved. And then one day, probably around U10, the boys start to grow into their bodies, and he became fast and quick, and then that kind of started some confidence going, and he was doing some one-on-one sessions, and the coach was, encouraging him to be creative with the ball, which is very probably consistent with his personality, and, not really worried if he tried a move and it backfired or was a mistake. And it really sort of, it was kind of like he had this confidence that was kind of an ember, and that was like giving oxygen to the ember. And that, he at that point, he sort of, his confidence grew, and then he, started wanting to play more and practicing more, and things kind of came together for him. And he's been very lucky to have good coaches throughout. I mean, Timbits, he was stuck with his dad as the coach, but High Park's had some good coaches that sort of see different things and play him in different positions and give him different opportunities. So he's very much flourished, and much like Sam, kids, they this becomes their network of friends, and we're lucky with the 07s. They're a very close-knit group. I mean, they're very welcoming of new players, but at the same time, there's a good core of them that have been with the club since a very young age. And the 07s, I guess, were the first year where the club pioneered a pre-OPDL program, with the idea being that a season or two before they reached the age of being eligible for OPDL, it was essentially a 3rd practice a week, and they called it pre-OPDL, and it was an opportunity for them to work with the OPDL coaches. Edin was one of them. Both of my boys have worked with Joe as well. And so at a young age, they get sort of a little bit of a taste of what OPDL might be like. It provides some great continuity with the program, because they get to see the older kids training, and they get to see what kind of an OPDL session looks like. And quite frankly, I think it was a good thing to help keep that age group together. I think as a result, our 07 group, which started with you, Shaheen, last year, probably 3/4 of the team were kids that had come up through High Park, which to me is very consistent with the community philosophy of High Park. And had some kids join us from other teams and from other clubs, and they fit in very well. And there's sort of, when you've got that sort of good, stable culture, it's a platform for being able to do lots of good things. Even after a crazy year like 2020 and COVID, we had 100% retention rate of kids that wanted to come back, which I think speaks very well to the program's ability to adapt in very unusual circumstances and keep these kids excited about soccer, even if it was online Zoom sessions or doing keep-ups on your own, or all of the various social activities that the coaching staff did throughout the year. The strength and conditioning kept the boys excited about soccer, and I think they're chomping at the bit, like the rest of us, for 2021 to be things start to look a little bit normal again, and get out there and play a game.
For sure. Thank you. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to quickly touch on. You mentioned passion, creativity with Austin when Austin was younger. I think that's something most coaches or all coaches should look to achieve, create a good, passionate culture so that more and more players come into the game and we can retain more players. But you also touched on the pre-OPDL program. I think Edin can confirm this. Basically, the idea of the program is to introduce the players to a more high performance program that's similar to OPDL, to bring to look at players that are looking to be involved in soccer more competitively, and then just give them a little taste of what OPDL could look like if they wanna join the program in the future. So I don't know, Edin, if you wanna touch up on that, but I think
I agree. Whatever you mentioned and Jason mentioned, it's correct. I just I guess Austin was a developmental player for OPDL as well, right? So
Yeah,
he was not just a part of the pre-OPDL. So he joined he was playing almost 2 years older than the 1 year older players one season, right? As a developmental player, and to make it clear what the developmental player is, there is a possibility in OPDL to sign a contract with the younger players and to give them opportunity to train with the team once a week, and then possibly used as a call-up in the games when we need a player, or when we have a space to give them some minutes on the field, right? And that's when we use the 2 players, and one of them was Austin. So
yeah, that was a really a great experience. I mean, Austin and his teammate Julian got to play with Sam and some of the older kids, and I remember the first session. I mean, you're nervous anyway, going and playing with older kids, and the kids get along and they chat and have fun before the session, but when the session's on, I mean, they're working hard and training hard, and he was exhilarated coming off of that. And what I noticed when those boys moved into OPDL with their 07 age group is both of them, without being told, I think just sort of naturally maybe we're more confident taking leadership positions. So for example, when Shaheen had them running a warm up and you split the group into 2 and you lead them through the FIFA warm up, I noticed both Julian and Austin, I don't know if it was kind of assumed or they presumed, but they were the ones at the front of the line because of course they'd spent a season doing that with the older boys. And so what it does is it provides that continuity, and then the other boys sort of see, oh, okay, this is the expectations, and they're modeling the behavior of the program. So I think quite quickly, even though the age group for the most part was new to OPDL, it was quite a quick transition to the culture of OPDL and what the expectations are. So I think it's a great opportunity, and really certainly thankful that Austin was able to participate in it.
sure. Well, it's all because of his own work ethic. So thanks to Austin. I want to bring in Joe. Joe, I haven't forgotten about you. I want you to, if I'm not wrong, again, I was trying to check my facts, but I think you are one of the coaches that has been with the club the longest, or possibly the coach that has been at High Park the longest. So I want you to talk about your experience at the club. You've been a parent, a coach, a head coach. You're now currently one of the assistant coaches in the OPDL program. Just talk us about your experience and why you've stuck around for so many years at the club. And yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking with everyone today. Yeah, I think it was 2005 when I started coaching with the club, and it was Timbits with my son, and it was, running around the park. And I didn't grow up on a soccer pitch like Edin, or maybe like yourself, or maybe like a lot of the people that wear the patch. I grew up playing hockey and track, and I played volleyball and basketball. And as a health and phys ed teacher, you have to have a little bit of expertise in a lot of sports. And, Soccer was probably down there on my list of sports about which I had expertise. And I just kept, I was really interested in it. And then I started coaching in high school when I was coaching my kid. And then I started coaching the students in high school. And then at probably about 40 years of age, it was just, I don't want to sound cheesy, but it was just sort of an awakening that I got a chance to do something brand new and learn stuff that I really hadn't learned before. So I started taking all my coaching courses and got all my levels, and I didn't want to stop. And so I was the head coach of the 2000 boys from 2010 until 2018, when those guys all finished their U18 season. And that was really rewarding. But for me, the most rewarding part, the most interesting part, is exactly what you had said. And your research is outstanding, sir. That being a parent, being an unpaid coach, being a coach who at first didn't know a lot about the sport, I just had a real transition, and I've seen a lot of different things from a lot of different sides. And there's a lot to be said, but I'll just focus on this one overarching thing. When West End United and Swansea Soccer Club joined and formed Toronto High Park FC, there was a lot of talk about the vision. We hired our first technical director at the time. We started getting in paid coaches, and there was always a conversation around the coaches table that, while these kids play volleyball, these kids go horseback riding, they go swimming, they go to Aspen, they go to, you can't do that if you're going to perform an elite level. Are we going to have an elite program, or are we not? And there would be those coaches like me that said, you can have an elite program and still nurture these kids and teach these kids, because I don't care how optimistic you are, it's still a really small percentage of our kids are going to go on to do anything with their life in soccer. And I'm not even talking about being an athlete, but there's a high percentage of those kids that need discipline, need hard work, need to perform at a high level, need to be trained at a high level, even if they're not going to have this as part of their career. And getting that across to a lot of, in many cases, a lot of ex-athletes, in many cases, a lot of headstrong parents who just were hell-bent on getting their kid the most elite type of training there is, which was part of the reason for the OPDL forming, which I don't think was a bad idea, therefore I think it's a fantastic idea. But I'm a very strong believer, and I think it comes from my education background, my parenting thing, and the way that I moved into coaching, is that you can have elite training, you can have elite performance, you can have very, very high expectations, but that doesn't come at the cost of the soul of the kid, the enthusiasm of the kid, the fun of the kid. And much to Edin's credit, I remember when I had a job interview, or the assistant interview with Eric and Jason and Chris at the time, they said, I think you and Edin would be a good match. You come from a particular world, Edin comes from a particular world, and I think it'll be a good match. And I've got all these preconceived notions. Oh, okay, here's another one of these ex-athletes, and he's going to treat every kid like a little beast, right? And like a little robot. You must do this. You must do this. Pain is not acceptable. All that kind of crap. And which is not the case at all. Edin's a fantastic coach. He's got all the soft skills, that they were hoping that I was going to bring to the thing. But anyway, so I'll just end by saying that it's a fantastic program, and I still am happy that our club has a holistic approach to young people, that it's not only about elite performance, and even in the elite program, it's not only about elite performance.
Yeah, 100%. You have the qualifications and you have the experience, and I've seen you coach. You have the skills to be a head coach. Why be an assistant? What is it, because of your other career as a teacher? If that is, how does that help you in your coaching career or in your day-to-day coaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think it's a good question. I'm not sure if anyone else is interested, but I'm interested to say that when I was coaching my son, and I coached my daughters in house league for a number of years as well. So let me tell you, if you think your car smells like soccer balls and uniforms, man, when I was doing some of the technical staff stuff, plus coaching the 2000 boys, plus coaching high school or my twin daughters who are 03, it was soccer like 6 days a week in my house. But anyway, when those guys finished at U18, I was really close with those boys, and I had spent a lot of time with them. And I kind of thought, I don't want to take a head coach role again, because I had to balance the fact, how much enthusiasm do I have? How much time do I have? and how much of that was only because my kid was on the team. And I really had to take a close look at myself. And he actually taught me a lesson when in our U17 indoor season, he decided to leave the team. This was my son. And at that time, I was the only coach that wasn't getting paid in the whole club. And but anyway, the reason that's interesting is because when he left the team, they started paying me. So if you don't have a kid on the team, they pay you. If you do have it, so that's what they did. So anyway, he left, and I really had to have a conversation with myself and my wife and my family to think, where does my enthusiasm lie? Is it with the sport? Is it with the team? Is it with coaching? What do I get out of it? What am I giving to the kids? And I decided to stick with the team because I still enjoyed it and I was still growing. And I think I had a great relationship with the parents and with those players. And then he actually played with the school team and had an amazing experience. He's outside the door here. I don't think he's listening, but he was really, he'll tell you, number 14 or number 15 on the roster. Wasn't a big impact player, but when he played with the school team, he went to a new position, and he went to OFSA. He played. One of his favorite stories is he played against Jonathan David, current Canadian international, when Jonathan David was in high school. And he tells me some stories about that kid could skin you, 8 ways from Sunday. He was such a good player at that time. But when he came back, he had a renewed enthusiasm. So that recharged my energy, my battery to keep coaching with the team. But sticking with the assistant coach thing now, it keeps me interested. It keeps me involved. It keeps soccer as part of my life. But even when, the 07s teams came up, Gareth at the time said to me, Joe, do you want to take one of these teams? And we had a conversation about that, and I decided not to. And then when the new 08 teams were coming up, Edin and I had a conversation, and he said, where do you see yourself with the club? Would you be doing a head coach? And I still like what I'm doing. Edin is fantastic to work with, which is part of it, right? If that wasn't fun for me, then I probably wouldn't be doing it. And then going forward, my career as a health and phys ed teacher, I get to retire in June of 2022. And my wife said, "You're going to keep working, right?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean I'm going to keep working? I'm retired." And I said, I'll keep doing some assistant coach stuff, She said, "But you have all this time. You got to take a head coach job or get some role within the club, I'm sure that they wouldn't mind having you with what you bring in." But the short answer is, that was a long answer. Assistant coaching, I find it meaningful. When I started, I was still working out the role because I had never been an assistant coach in any sport I've ever coached. Am I just moving the pylons? What does Edin want me to do? And it took a while for that relationship to gel, where I think where I'm understanding what he wants more, and I'm getting a better relationship with the kids, because it's tough to walk in there, for me anyway, and just be the second banana, the cone mover. It's much better to be part of a team, knowing full well that Edin drives the ship, but I'm happy to play my role.
Allard, let's go back to Sam. I've heard that, Edin has mentioned that he was selected as one of the for the provincial team, if I'm not wrong.
He got identified in the screen.
Identified, yes.
Yeah.
How did that experience play out for him?
Well, it was interesting. It was he certainly felt some pressure. He felt that this was a big step, and there were some pretty good players there. Although, from what I saw of it, I certainly didn't think he was that far off from what. Some of them were obviously at a very extremely high level, but all in all, I saw a lot of players that were comparable. It was a neat experience. It was a lot of fun. It was intense, and he got past. He didn't get past the screening process, so he didn't move on to the next level. And unfortunately, we didn't get an opportunity to try it again. So because of the lockdown, right? So we'll have to see how things move forward.
Did you see a change in his mentality, in his attitude after that process? Did you see a difference in him?
I don't know. I wouldn't think. He's always. Edin can correct me if I'm wrong, because I have a bias when I see it. But he's always struck me as being rather engaged in the team and taking not a full leadership role, but he plays hard and he doesn't mess around too much, and I don't think that really changed from that experience. I think it was a little bit of an eye opener, because I think he did realize that if I want to get to that level, I may even have to practice more than just what we're doing with OPDL. But so that was, I think, a bit of an eye opener. And there are some big boys that were trying out there for sure. So it was a neat experience for him. Yeah, it was good. I hope that there's if we get another season under our belt, and if he were to get another opportunity, I think that would be excellent for him.
We will. Edin, do you have anything to add to that as Sam's coach?
Like Alan said, Sam is for a 15, 16-year-old right now, and he was always, even in 12 and 13, he's a pretty serious kid, right? Yes. There's not much laughing on the session. He's pretty serious, right? Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing about Sam is, and Joe knows we are working. When who doesn't know Sam? When you just show up sometimes on the session, you may want to say, you can go home, Sam, because you look like you don't want to be here, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm always being straight with the parents, and Alan knows that, and I've shared it multiple times with him. That was Sam when he was 12 as well, right? Mm-hmm. Sam was a player that I was asking myself, like, what is going on here, right? This kid doesn't want to be here, right? Until I pulled him aside and I said, like, what's going on? Let's me and you have a discussion and whatever. And from then, he was at that point in that first year of OPDL. I will probably, I won't be wrong if I say that he wasn't in the top 10 for me at that time, right? And then you see in 2 years, or not even that much, he's been selected for in the top 90 in the province, right? Which is amazing, right? It shows that you can do some amazing things when you're just talking with the players, right? Not just coaching them. Sometimes the word is the key, right? So it's definitely interesting that story about Sam going from the one of the weaker players in the if he's gonna watch this podcast. Hi, Sam. But yeah, it's interesting, when you're not the strongest one in your team, and then in 1 year you explode, right? And you show a great improvement. Right?
I think it shows a lot of character. It shows the player's work ethic, and also it kind of emphasizes on the long-term player development. You never know in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years where players will be.
It's one thing that did happen was when we started with the OPDL program, and we were doing one of the strength and conditioning groups. And they had offered some additional training, and Sam had asked me if he could do so. So I said, yeah. And then, so we did another 5 or 6 sessions outside of the OPDL. And one of the things that the guy worked with him on, silly as it sounds, was running and how to do a better job of running. And Sam went from, just within those sessions, I mean, it was just a guy just telling him how to move his arms a little differently, and it made a real difference, which then translated into an improvement in confidence, and then translated, I think, into where he is right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Techniques, running technique, very important. That's why we emphasize on physical literacy at the young ages and the grassroots levels, because we want the kids to learn the right techniques.
Just one more thing I would like Shaheen to add, that because we're talking, and I know a lot of people, whoever will listen to this, they know that in OPDL you have opportunity to be selected and identified, right? And it's easier than in other programs, right? But I again want to emphasize that the environment is important, right? It's not just, but you're not joining, or you shouldn't be joining the program, OPDL program, just to be identified or to be there. There are other ways to make it to the pro or university or whatever you want to achieve, right? So you're not joining the program just because of that. That's a bonus, but there's a million other things which are very good in the program for the players' development, right? Starting with the good coaching, that many sessions throughout the week, good facilities, good this off-field things like psychology, video game
So,
analysis, whatever.
so this connects me to Jason. So Jason, let me ask you, why OPDL for Austin and for yourself? You're newer to the program. What values do you see in the program? Why do you think it's going to be beneficial for Austin or for players that want to play more competitively?
I think going into the program, it was very much sort of, I guess, a soccer focus, right? This was, I could see that it was an environment that, from a soccer perspective, I felt would give not just Austin, but all of the boys, because I've known many of these kids for so long. I'm not going to say they're like my kids, but I have an interest in their success and development, just as obviously as a parent I have in my own sons. And so going in, I would say it was a soccer focus, and sort of what Joe was saying earlier about kind of the life skills of developing discipline and if you've got goals and how to work towards those goals, and all of the good stuff that comes from a high performance program, regardless of what they want to do. And let's be honest, the percentages are pretty low for these kids if they want to go play professional. But for me, that's not the goal. And I think, much like Allard, it's just about sort of if your son or daughter wants to do this, and it becomes a platform for them to learn other skills as well. And then I would say once we got to experience the program, one of the benefits, like you were just talking about, is all of these other things that they get exposed to, whether it's strength and conditioning, or whether it's psychology sessions, or whether it's nutrition sessions. And look, some work out better than the others, but it's funny because actually one of the sessions that I know Edin was less pleased with, I think, was I hope I can say it, was the nutrition session. And yet I've noticed as a parent, like, Austin has not drunk pop for 3 years. And it's probably not 3 years, probably about a year, because of that session. I like to think that they've taken away little nuggets about, whether it's being a high performance athlete or just overall from a personal level, taking care of your nutrition, not eating junk, eating properly, timing your eating with your sessions and stuff. And these kids are 13 years old where they're first exposed. And let's face it, there's a whole lot of stuff changing, right? And they don't necessarily want to listen to their parents as much anymore. But if they're part of a program and, Coach Edin says this, I'd be like, yeah, but I've been saying this for 5 years. But, if Coach Edin or if Coach Shaheen or if Coach Joe says it, it resonates a little bit differently and seems to stick. So, there's this whole structure that are exposing the kids to things that are related to soccer, but also sort of extraneous to soccer that I think are really beneficial. And I think, the people walk with their feet or talk with their feet. And the fact that, like I said, 100% of the kids wanted to come back in a year where there was actually very little soccer, right? Because we were in lockdown and it was Zoom sessions and it was strength and conditioning and psychology and all of these other things. So to me as a parent, clearly something right is happening, and these kids are still excited about it, and they're picking up good lessons and good habits. And so now I would say that, having sort of been a year and a bit in the program, counting the development side, the year as a development player, it's probably a much more holistic approach that I would say is exciting and keeping Austin engaged.
And I can say that's been nice to see that develop. As someone that's been with the program for a few years now, it's been nice to see a lot more of that holistic development. Like, the session last, I'm going, talking to a couple of professional players. That was fantastic. That's good stuff. That's something great for the boys to see, boys and girls to see. So yeah, it's nice to see the way that the not direct soccer sort of training that's been implemented over the years, and how that continues to improve is fantastic.
For sure. Joe, I have a question for you, and I'm gonna pick your brains a little bit because I think you're the expert. As a phys ed teacher and with your experience, when do you know? Let's say, well, I'm too young to have a son. Let's say I have a son. When do I really know soccer is the sport for him? When does he or she make that decision? When do the players choose? Okay, I want to pick soccer as my sport. I want to try soccer more competitively. I want to sacrifice hockey and pick soccer over hockey, pick OPDL over competitive or house league. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a really interesting question once again. And I'm always a big believer that the truth always exists in the middle. And by that, I mean this. I was watching a video of Petr Cech, the goalkeeper. At the end of his career, he started playing goalkeeper for a hockey team in England, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they call their top hockey thing. The best athletes are going to be able to succeed through multiple stages of their life. Having said that, so that's one truth. Okay, like take a couple of our kids, whether we're talking about Austin or Sam, who are good athletes, you give them 18 months of solid volleyball training, both of those kids are going to be pretty darn good because they're great athletes and they're smart kids and they're focused. But having said that, we when we talk about creating elite athletes and the long-term player development plan, we have them doing different things. We're teaching them this at a certain age. They have play multiple positions at this age, and then it's at one particular age where they start to specialize. I tend to default to that. I think that's pretty much got it bang on. So we're looking at kids who when there's the learn to train level around there, where kids are okay. That 12, 13, 14 age where they start dropping out of other sports. Are you going to drop out of this sport? Because I know that's what I did with hockey for sure when I was a kid. And so if you're not going to drop out of that sport, I think we really start to say to your kid, and I think Allard and Jason would say the same thing as they have children around this age. Okay, this is the age now. You made a commitment. You're going to do this. I'm not saying we're not going to do these other things for fun. A little bit house league here and there, this and that, or whatever it might be. But this is the age now, those mid to early mid-teen years, maybe a little earlier teen years, which I think parallels a long-term player development pathway. That's the time when you say you're going to focus on this. And undoubtedly all the greatest players in the world, I fully believe they could do other things if they wanted to, but they tend not to. They tend to devote their lives to that. But just let me add as well at the same time, that's why I think it's so important to have a balanced approach. If you have a young child who's going to eat, sleep, and breathe one thing for a good portion of their formative years, I think you got to be careful with that. I know Edin's even had this conversation with us. Edin, you can chime in here as well. There's a lot of sacrifices, and sometimes it's worth it. And then maybe, at 50, you might say, gosh, it wasn't worth it. At 30, you might say it wasn't, or you might say it was. So, you're alive for 80, 90 years. You're an elite athlete for 10 of those years, at the highest level, if you're lucky. So I think it's really important that we keep that balance in mind. But did I answer your question? I think
Yes. No.
I think, yeah.
No, you definitely did. And I just wanted to hear your perspective on it, because I come across it as a coach. I come across it as a colleague. I have a young nephew. I try to get him interested in soccer, but he has absolutely no interest. But he has really good physical literacy skills. So in the back of my mind, I'm hoping one day he will become a soccer player. But it was interesting because I have players that are doing maybe one or two different other sports as well. So some of them are making decisions, some of them aren't, and I just wanted to see if there is a right answer. I don't think there's a definite answer or a definite age where you could say at U12 everybody should pick their sport.
Of course, yeah.
I think
it's
depends.
Also a bit of a sliding scale. I was just going to add as well that I don't know the 07 boys that well, but Edin can tell you, at our training sessions, there's one or two kids that are like laser focused, right? And these guys are ready to make that commitment now. And then there's, and it goes down in levels of focus and enthusiasm. And when that laser focus kicks in, for your nephew. If it does, that's good. If it doesn't, you're not going to force anyone. You're not going to fit a square peg into a round hole, right?
No, for sure. I want to slowly start ending things because we're coming to almost an hour, and I want to respect your time. But obviously, the elephant in the room, COVID. So 2020 was a tough year. As you guys mentioned, I think all of you mentioned already, there wasn't much of a season, not just for OPDL, for a lot of programs. Our players had to, adapt to online trainings. The way soccer was a little bit. And we mentioned, for example, with the 07 teams, there was 100% retention. All players wanted to come back and came back. What is the value you guys, and Jason and Allard, maybe you guys can answer this. What's the value you guys are getting during COVID from the OPDL program? What makes you guys stick around? How is it beneficial for the players right now during these times?
I think obviously if Sam had a choice, he'd be playing. And this gives him at least an opportunity to have a lifeline to get back to playing when time is right for that to happen. So far, I'm really happy with the programs that the club's been able to offer. I mean, obviously, given the limited scenario we're in, I think it's the best we can ask for, and I think the boys are doing. I like some of the physical training stuff is as good as it can get, and I like the fact that we have some of these other sessions as well, more non-soccer specific, let's say, sessions. I think I've been really happy with them. I mean, I don't think there's much more we can do given the scenario we're in right now. So, I'm happy.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that. I mean, I think for all of us as parents and as individuals going through COVID, it's so important to have structure. It's easy for the kids. My wife and I were talking about this today. It's easy for the kids to roll out of bed at 8:40, stay in their pajamas, jump on their Zoom call and do school. But we also talked about the importance of, kind of a disciplined routine where, you're still going to get up and shower and get dressed and sit down and approach the day, because rolling out of your bed and doing school is like trying to run onto play a soccer game without warming up. So I think the OPDL programming has provided some structure in an environment that, we're all trying to figure out as we go along. And it's interesting for Austin, one of the most difficult things for him was actually in December, where we were allowed to go back, but only with half the team. So we had to split the team into 2 squads. And he really did not like that. He didn't like, nothing to do with the teammates he was with, but he didn't like losing that group dynamic of 18 teammates and 18 colleagues. And he kept asking me, when can we go back to a full squad? So, and I recall back when we came out of the first lockdown, which was June sometime. Yeah. And what I noticed and observed with the kids is, first of all, they hadn't forgotten how to play. So the continuity that the OPDL program had provided in terms of skill sessions and touches on the balls and keep ups had sort of kept their skills up. But second, they must have sat down for 20 minutes afterwards and just caught up socially as friends. And, we talk about long-term player development and, the 4 different pillars and that social side, the social psychological side, it's so important. And, as a parent, if my son wants to try to play professional, then great, I'll do everything I can to support him. But to be honest, 99.9% of these kids, what they're going to get out of this is the experience of being part of a team. And what Joe was talking about, sort of the discipline of being part of a high performance program. But think back to when a long time ago when I was a teenager, and what do you remember is you remember sort of being part of a team and having experiences together as a team. And we before OPDL, we actually took the kids. Had an opportunity through Eric to take the kids to Barcelona, and there were two boys teams that went and one girls team, all levels. It wasn't an OPDL thing, so whether you're on the first team or the third team, you could go. And for me, it was just about providing life experiences through soccer for these kids, and if that helps them see the world a bit and have lifelong memories, I think that's what we're all here for. And I think the club's done a really good job through this sort of COVID thing of saying, okay, well, we can't work on the technical side as much, but there's all sorts of other pillars of long-term player development, both that apply on the soccer field and I guess in life. But I still want to get on the field as soon as we can.
Yeah, trust me. I think Joe and Edin can agree with me. I can't wait. I can't wait to be on the field. That's why I love doing what I do. It's being on the field, working with the players, being in games. But one thing I want to mention is, and I've seen this with our players. I think the players have shown how resilient they can be. The support we've seen from the parents, the work we've seen from the coaches at the club, I think it's been really, really great. And I'm sure when we come back, I think we will be stronger and happier, and hopefully we can continue to grow as a club and as a program. Edin, is there any final things you would like to talk about or mention if I missed anything?
No, I think it was a good discussion, and I think I would just like to thank everyone for their time, for showing up tonight, and a big thank you especially to Aled and Jason for all the work they're doing for the teams continuously, like voluntary, like you mentioned. It's to every single manager and of our OPDL teams, like big thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I did forget something that I want to bring up. You guys, from everything you guys said, sounds like everybody's a big soccer guy here. The Premier League is very tight this year. I wanted to see what everybody thinks. What team is gonna potentially win the Premier League and why? I wanna hear about your reasoning as well. So.
Well, as an Arsenal fan, I'm not going to say it's been a very good year, and it's been very frustrating, and I don't care.
I think Alan, maybe you can start managing the Arsenal team as well and bring back Ozil. I think that's one of the biggest problems.
Oh no, Alan, just trust the process.
That's right. It'll come. I agree with you, and I agree with you. I'm
Good things take time.
I think we're on we're on a journey again, and I like the journey we're on. So, yeah,
long-term player development at Arsenal.
That's right. That's what I think is the key. So, yeah, there's some great young players, and I think they got some good future there. So, but right now, this year, I still think Liverpool. I mean, yeah, they're stumbling a bit, but they still strike me as
you think they're still going to be champions?
I still think they're the best coached, and get some of their players back, and has a Dutch heritage here as well. So when I see Van Dijk back out there again, I think things will be good for him.
Okay, all right, fair enough. What about you, Jason?
Well, I don't have a favorite team within the Premier League. I mean, I follow it, so I can be objective, and I think City are going to take it. I think they've got their defensive pairing figured out, so you're going to see them a lot more solid at the back. Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players in the world, always my first player on my fantasy team. And, they've got Aguero coming back as well. So I think they've got some momentum, and Spurs are Spurs. United, I think, are not quite there yet. So
they're top in the league right now. So
yeah, I think, and obviously Liverpool's a great team, but if I had to bet my money, I'll say City.
All right, Joe.
You don't want my prediction? Well, actually, probably should, because when you get a prediction from an uninformed person, it's often good. I don't follow the Premier League that closely, but when I do, I'm a big fan of De Bruyne. I think he's a fantastic player. I like all the qualities that he has.
Okay.
And I'm always a big fan of teams that don't have a lot of high-priced crybabies. That are, I like those teams that just get promoted and you get scrappy, hungry young players. So anytime I'm have an opportunity to watch a match, if someone's at the bottom of the table, I maybe do a little research on them and I figure out who's there, and might watch that. So I can't make an informed opinion. I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Edin.
Well, I would have to agree with the Jason on this one. I think that I would go for City this year, because they didn't change the things a lot. They didn't move the things around a lot. They still have a good team. They were a little bit off the slower start, but I still think they're gonna win it with even with a little bit of bigger difference this time.
Which City team? City team A or team B? Because they have two squads on that team.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Well,
So you mean Leicester City, or do you mean?
No, I just mean they have 24 quality players.
But you are a coach, and that doesn't mean a lot sometimes, right? There's something else. It's hard to, when you have so many players, how are you going to keep that atmosphere? It's hard, and it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I still think they're gonna win it, and we'll see. Remember the date.
I'm gonna go for Spurs. I think they're the underdogs.
Oh wow!
I think that
I might as well hang up now.
I think the partnership between Son and Harry Kane is something special, and I think with the coach they have, they might do the impossible. But anyways, I want to thank you guys again. Thanks for your time. Really, really, really appreciate it. A lot of good information and knowledge from every single one of you. It was my pleasure. And on behalf of the club, also thank you guys. And if you guys have anything else to say, I'm all ears. If not, thank you.
I want to say thank you, Shaheen. I like the way you promote our club and constantly promote the sport. This podcast, from the very first time I saw it with you and Io, I kept waiting for my invitation. I would open my email every day waiting for an invitation. Now here I am. So my kids think I'm going to be famous.
I hope so. That's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.